And good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm Ann Metcalf. I'm in Tsawwassen, British Columbia, and I'm doing my Facebook chat this morning on our different issues related to conscious eating and conscious living. It is July 28th, 2024, and I've been talking about clothing, the textile industry. And I was talking with someone who was involved in uh, sporting clothing last week. And she said, yes, it's textiles in our clothing, but it's also affects our anything in our home, the towels we use, anything in the kitchen, any cloth material, the car textiles, our furniture textiles, the carpeting. So the textile industry as a whole um, is part of this. My discussion originally started with clothing. What's in my clothing? What does my body want to feel good in? So that's our topic for today. And I'm looking at sizing and de-sizing. And if you're familiar with the clothing textile industry, this might be a familiar process. It's new for me, and I'm sure for some of you listening or reading this. And the purpose of sizing is to remove the size or starch from the warp yarn of the woven fabric, and it makes the fabric more absorbent. It's a fundamental step before any further treatment of the garment, and they use basically enzymes to desize. As the most adopted method, both for reducing the environmental hazard and a lower cost. Sizing is the first preparation step in which sizing agents such as starch, polyvinyl alcohol, PVA, and carboxymethyl are added to provide strength to the fibers and minimize breakage. And so it is sustainable desizing. There's a lot of information out there. This is just a little snippet of what I found. And I ask you always to do your research too and find out and always share with me. I'd love to know more. Um, Extreme amounts of both energy and water are required by the textile industry. And desizing using conventional approach consumes about 120 liters of water for each kilo of material being processed. And desizing fabrics made with polyvinyl alcohol using ultraviolet C is a more environmentally friendly technique. And this ultraviolet C radiation is used to desize cotton fabric mainly at a lower temperature, cutting down on water use by 67%, processing time by 68%, and energy used by 83% compared to the traditional method without sacrificing the quality. Something else I remember during my high school sewing class many decades ago, I learned about mercerized cotton, and I don't remember what I was taught back then. So I looked it up, and what is mercerized cotton? And the process is actually way too long and complex to explain here. But simply put, it increases the tensile strength of the cotton fibers, making them more durable and less prone to breakage using a sodium hydroxide solution and other chemicals. Typically, it's for the cotton fiber that's treated with this toxic chemicals to smooth out the natural fiber's texture, making the cotton very rope-like, polished, and unforgiving, since the elasticity of the original natural fiber is destroyed. So that's the mercerized cotton, and it's more expensive because of the extra chemicals, and then the environmental cost is there as well. And something else that this daughter of a friend of mine was talking to me about, and it was circularity. And I had not heard of circular fashion, although I'm sort of aware of it. But again, there's much more information out there on this circular fashion. And basically, it's a system where the manufacture of an item and the end of its life are equally as important, as the aim is to prevent waste by intentionally designing items to be reusable, repairable, and biodegradable and recyclable. And the concept of circular fashion is broad and nuanced, but overall, it envisions the industry as almost an endless circle in which materials are kept in use for as long as possible. At the core of this concept is knowing where things come from, what they are made of, who made them, and being accountable for the overall life cycle of our belongings. And this is from the Good On You site. Um, and I will include the link. And there's a bit of caution here that the Good On You is talking about. And like so many other words, that it's environmentally friendly kind of thing when it's food or clothing or any kind of product. And the circularity is often used as a buzzword, otherwise known as greenwashing. And there's only a piece of the concept that makes great claims to environmental sustainability, and thereby convincing the public that the company is producing the product responsibly. So they take one little piece of it, and they, with their marketing, they say, "Oh, well, we're included in this cradle to cradle kind of concept," when it's not really happening. And when you look deeper, you find out that, oh, okay, that was not really truthful. Now, the European Union seems to be ahead of us, and it's taking significant action. It's already banned the destruction of unsold clothing and footwear, and intends to introduce digital product passports that will enable sharing of key product related information that is essential for products, sustainability, and circularity. Now, it's interesting, they're banning the destruction of this clothing. And my question is, what are they going to do with it? Because there's millions of tons of clothing. And then if textile includes our furniture, our carpentry, the carpets, where does this lead to? And so now the digital product pack is part of a wider eco design for sustainable product regulation, which has a key aim to significantly improve the product circularity, energy performance, and other environmental sustainability aspects. While this is all good news, the reality is that unless stricter and more radical legislation is proposed on a global scale, we won't see the vast changes that are needed to move the fashion industry to a fully circular model, which is, after all, a big ask for an industry built on linear consumption. They build it, we buy it, and some of it gets turned into a few rags now when it's no longer pass onable. Countries in Africa are no longer accepting our load, dump loads of used clothing. And these companies that say, oh, yes, we're part of that cradle to cradle. And there's a few in Vancouver and probably where you live, where you can return the clothing it's used, and then they say we recycle it. Well, a lot of that gets sent off to these African countries where that totally disrupts their whole textile production purchasing industry. And I've seen videos with mounds of clothing with brand names that have been sent to this country. Oh, well, they need the clothing. Well, actually, no, they do not. And some countries, I think Kenya is one of them, it's refusing. It's refusing to take our old stuff. And we need to be responsible for it. Everything we purchase. How can we be part of this circularity? And then I found something else this morning, which was really encouraging. And it's called the Threading Change. And it's called Vancouver Spotlight Threading Change. And it's an ambitious international youth led organization working to achieve a feminist, fossil fuel free fashion future. The organization focuses on education, storytelling, innovation, and consultation to achieve a future where fashion is circular, just, and intersectional, with climate, gender, and racial equality at the forefront of design and production. Threading Change also provides expertise to address the lack of experience with sustainable development goals. otherwise known as SDGs, for companies aiming to implement sustainable and ethical solutions in the industry, doing so through anti racist and anti oppressive practices. We have to change, we have to stop viewing our clothing as commodities and instead view them as stories. Threading Change is proud to train and educate a new generation of ethical fashion and circular economy leaders while working with current leaders in the space to uphold intersectionality and progress towards true circularity in the industry together. And so that comes from that the group in Vancouver, which I will look into further because I'm curious. And now, things you can do to align with circular fashion. There's a whole list of them. And to create that sustainable and ethical fashion, basically learn more about the brands you buy from using the Good On Use directory and live by the fives of fashion: buy less and buy better. Revise your wardrobe before buying new. Shop secondhand where possible. Consider renting clothes for your next event. Host and attend clothes swaps. Take care of your clothes. The question: what are the alternatives before throwing away used clothing? Recycle your clothes through a credible program instead of throwing them away. And I'd like to know what that is in the Vancouver area because some of my clothing are so used, they're so, um, I wouldn't want to give them to anybody else because they're just so worn. And that's one of the issues when you have mixed textiles in one product, it makes it difficult. But with the new technology, I'm hopeful that new processes will come that are sustainable to help co create that circular fashion movement. Talk to people about the benefits of a circular fashion and call on brands to increase their sustainability commitment and move to a circular model. And big one, commit to not buying brands that don't sit within the circular model. So there we have from sizing to circularity. And I encourage you to share with me your ideas and maybe some of the solutions that you have come up with in terms of how to create a wardrobe and your household items that are in that circular model. So, blessings to you all. Have a beautiful day. And we are taking those steps to make a difference because we can. We can. We, you and I, we're the ones that can shift this planet with our loving heart, our consciousness, and our conscious actions and our conscious choices. So just have a wonderful day and a beautiful week. And until we meet again, thank you. And today in Swasan, we've got mixed cloud and sun. It's absolutely beautiful. And if you ever want to contact me, you can reach me at rosiesjoy11@gmail.com. And some of these videos that I'm doing will be on my app, Authentic Sacred Design, which also has a website with the same name. So until next time, thank you.